Well, hello, hello,
Hello.
hello, everyone. I think we still have one more panelist joining. But as we wait for the whole crew to get up here, I just want to thank you all for joining us. It's a pleasure to welcome you. I'm Alison Branger. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Launchmetrics. And today we are going to dive into what's next in beauty. We'll talk about the challenges and the changing of the new consumer, new formats that brands are adopting, like social selling, and the responsibility that comes with being a beauty brand. But most importantly, we'll talk about thoughts for the future. If you have any questions or comments, I know my team's already started a little chat in the chat box, but please feel free to drop any of them into the chat box and we'll be sure to address them at the end of the session. If we run out of time, I'll make sure myself, one of the speakers, or a team member from Launchmetrics will get back to you. So without further ado, I'm so excited to welcome Letizia, who is the Communications Director at Coty with us today, as well as Luca, the Global Social Commerce Advocacy and CRM Director of Coty. Thank you both for being here virtually.
Thank you for having us.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
It is my pleasure. I forgot to say backstage that I have like this amazing but terrible French last name, so you guys could like also laugh at my French accent when I pronounce my name. It's like the Launchmetrics inside joke, especially when most of our team is French. So, Letizia, I'm going to kick it off with you and put you in the hot spot. You know, moving from working with fashion brands to now working within the beauty industry, what do you see are the big differences in the approach, the marketing approach that brands are taking? And is speaking to beauty consumers really different than speaking to fashion audiences?
Yeah, I mean, differences for sure, especially when working for luxury brands. Like I used to work for Maison Margiela, for example, where when you work for such a brand, you're definitely talking to a smaller group of people than working for a brand like, let's say, Bourjois, whose products can be found at Monoprix. So the size of your audience is definitely different. But we also know that some like customers of our fragrances may not really connect the link between the fragrance and the fashion brands. So when you work for Chloe fragrances or Miu Miu fragrances, for example, you are responsible to convey the brand, the fashion brand equity, the fashion artistic direction, and the values of these brands. But we also need to make sure that we are comprehensive to our audience, the fragrance audience, who might not be buying clothes from these brands. So I would say these are the differences. But there's also some like strong common points, like if you consider topics like diversity, transparency, that the customers are seeking more and more now, like thinking sustainability, for example, or digital, of course. Both beauty and fashion, in both beauty and fashion industry, we more and more need to engage emotionally with the consumer. And that means being more authentic and real in the way we communicate. Like the pandemic has impacted both industries. We have been forced to accelerate drastically in our digital transformation. Like fashion had to adapt its way to present collections, the fashion shows, the rise of loungewear, for example. And in beauty, we had our own challenges, like selling fragrances when you can't even smell the product, or trying like lipstick virtually. But interestingly, I think the beauty industry have been a little bit more successful in that. Like we know that the global beauty industry is actually set to surpass 2019 sales this year, while fashion is not expecting to recover until 2022. So we know we have to be super agile to navigate this market and to build a direct connection with our consumer in order to be successful in a more and more virtual world.
You know, it's funny. We've spoken to a lot of beauty brands throughout the pandemic, and of course, they've shared, you know, the challenges and changes they had to go through that you mentioned. But for some reason, we never touch upon fragrance. You're right; that probably is the hardest. I mean, look at all of these social media apps that have adapted all of this, you know, virtual trying on lipstick and makeup, and even God, can you guys partner with Zoom actually? Like that is my biggest flaw, that I really still have to put a full face of makeup on, and I can't get enough, you know, full face makeup when I get on my conference calls virtually. But fragrance must have been maybe one of the most challenging, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and it still is like we still we work on that every day, like how to communicate fragrances digitally. Like it's still we're still working on it.
I have loved all of the extra samples though that I get when I order beauty products. This lip color was a sample that I got at the beginning of the pandemic, and I've like dived into it. So it has pushed me outside my boundaries to try products that I wouldn't try on in a store, but actually I ended up loving. So that's kind of fun too. Just a segue if you were curious about, my beauty regime. And how do you think, you started to talk about this a little bit, but how do you think brands are keeping their audiences engaged with this kind of change in the consumer? You also mentioned too, like the values of the consumer have shifted. So what are those extra best practices that you guys are seeing or that you guys are doing at Coty?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think beauty industry has responded quite positively to the pandemic, so compared to other industries. But what's significant is definitely the type of products that people are buying now and the way they're buying it. If you think like working from home, like physical distancing, mask wearing, etc. So I think we can talk about like the rise of self-care and all the pampering trends with skincare, hair care, probiotic cosmetics, for example, or even the rise of like do-it-yourself products, like or do-it-yourself beauty care, like hair color or doing your own nail care, etc., or even doing your own moisturizer now. So yeah, we've seen a lot of these trends coming, and of course, like the prioritizing the digital channels. DTC e-commerce is key, like the brand website, of course, but also thinking live streaming, shoppable social media platforms, and marketplaces are like key right now.
I mean, absolutely. I got retargeted last night for a skin firming cream. I guess, as I told you, I'm turning 40, so they know it. And it was one of the...
China, you started when you're 24. So you could consider yourself lucky.
Perfect.
It's amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Sorry, my background on skincare is, coming up every single time that we speak about skincare.
I love it then. I will take that as a huge compliment then. But it's true. Like the first thing this kind of retargeted ad was like, this brand was discovered through TikTok. And it's ironic and hilarious, but it's so true that these platforms have become so key in reaching today's modern consumer. I love for you guys, obviously the beauty industry has always been digitally friendly. And I remember we did a report before the pandemic, and it was something like 80% of social media was coming from, or 80% of the media impact value for beauty was coming from YouTube when it came to social media. But now there are so many more platforms. There are so many more ways consumers are engaging with beauty brands. Do you think that most of that engagement can start to come from digital, or do you think there still will need to be this physical connection as well?
Yeah, really good point that I think we're asking ourselves all the time. Like, I think the fear of disconnection is maybe not the challenge we need to focus on. Like, of course, it can be a risk, but I think our audience is more and more experiencing brands, entertainment, education, even healthcare entirely through digital platforms. So I think the shift is almost like driven by demand. But of course, the need for physical is still there. We've seen it following our lockdowns, like people are back in the streets, they're back in restaurants, brands are doing events as much as they can. So I think I would say that the real challenge is more to avoid the fragmentation of your communication. Like with all the touch points that we have, like the digital, the physical, like all the different behaviors, different type of contents, the different way to like interact and engage, we need to communicate more than ever with like consistency and clarity. So brands need to share like an experience, an engagement that is understandable in the same way to many different people. And I think that's the only way a brand can set for success and be shared and not confused. Like if one of your audience sees on Instagram love, let's say, and another one will see joy on TikTok, you're not understandable and you're fragmentating your message. So I think it's super important to, if you want to structure your brand for success in this digital world, is to keep like clarity and simplicity in your message, and also build your storytelling, build the mission of the brand, and work and structure your brand consumer journey.
I think obviously I'm not the expert that you guys are when it comes to these industries, but I think, of course, it's less about focusing on, is it physical, is it digital? I think certainly there's a mix of the two. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was all of those questions about, would you try on a mascara at a store again? Would you put body cream on your body that someone else has touched? And to be fair, the first time I traveled recently, like after the pandemic, I literally didn't even take a second thought of like going on and trying on things at the store. I don't know why. I think, as you said, people are back at restaurants. Of course, everyone's a little worried, but at the same time, I think there's that need for this connection, whether it's digitally or physically. So I think all of the worries that we had 2 years ago kind of have shifted or changed, or maybe are more digestible. I don't know. I mean, not to share, Luca, your personal stuff, but as we were talking about COVID, like everyone's getting it. You kind of just accept it and move on with your life.
So as long as, I think that the most important thing, as long as a consumer would do it physically or digitally, and then you have the solution, you go, right? So consumer need to be the center of our world, to create products, to create experiences, to create communities, to create everywhere. We should just make sure that our values are aligned with their values, and go there straight away. And then there's also an example, the media part of that. I mean, Letizia, she could speak about media more than I do, but when you see something, let's put the case of TikTok, but because we spoke about that, TikTok is shaping the way we see content, right? Even us. It's starting from the Generation Z, that is the first generation influencing all the generation in history. It's the first time that myself, 35, I'm passing a couple of hours on TikTok every night. I don't know why, but I just love the way they use content, right? And they produce content. And then on TV, we can see some advertisements starting to be TikTok mood or TikTok style. And on the other end, when we drive to store, we see, hey, as seen on TikTok, this is the best mascara ever, as seen on TikTok, right? So there's a connection between digital and physical world. I mean, it's nothing. We spend our time on our mobile phones when we are outside. So
even when we're inside at dinner, sitting on the couch watching TV, you're still on your phone. I mean, it's this necessary evil following you everywhere. That's a good point that you bring up about TikTok, and I feel guilty asking this question, but is TikTok the new YouTube for beauty? What do you think, Letizia?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to answer that? Maybe.
No one wants to give the answer.
No, go, Letizia.
So I guess, if you're not on TikTok, as Luca said, you're just completely missing out. Like it's the place right now. Like the content has a huge organic potential. The algorithm is like super intelligent and super relevant to the audience. So I think, right now it's definitely the place where you want to overinvest, test and learn, and bring to your marketing mix. But I would say that you shouldn't forget about the other parts of the ecosystem, like CRM is also important, e-commerce, YouTube, answering your question, Instagram, Pinterest, or Snapchat. Like all these platforms also contribute to the bigger picture. So I wouldn't say that it's the new YouTube, because we have YouTube, but it definitely presents a new way to display content, as you said, Luca, in a different way that is maybe more snackable, that you can consume like throughout the day, while YouTube would be more like something that you for longer content, and something that you would do at night on your couch maybe.
I think that Sorry, Luca, I don't want to jump in if you wanted to say something.
No, totally agree with Letizia, and I would say that the younger generation and those creators have found a way of doing education through 30 seconds video. That's the real shift, the real challenge, right? There's good and bad education on the platform, but it's a platform about education. It's not a platform about gimmick content. There's gimmick content as well, but in all the world there's gimmick stuff, right? Everywhere there's gimmick stuff. It's an education platform.
I think, you guys are both right that one, it's the place where people are going and they're spending a lot of time right now. But I think if you isolate yourself to one channel, one type of content, you're not going to be able to engage the consumer where they want to be engaged and what they want to be engaged with. So Instagram worked really, really well at first because people were sick of reading long messages on Facebook and Twitter, right? They just wanted a quick image to understand what was going on. Then people got bored of looking at images over and over because they really didn't say enough, let's say. It's not that people don't ever look at that, but they wanted more out of that. So things like stories were really interesting, but then stories, again, didn't provide enough. So I think it's this kind of evolution in what our consumers want, how they want to engage with stuff. I think absolutely there's the TikTok kind of 30-second, okay, how do I quickly do this smoky eye? But actually, it's a taste to see if I'd like it. And then if I really want to dig into it, maybe a YouTube tutorial is going to be a better DIY on how to get that full red carpet look. So, but I think it's the challenge for brands too. How do I invest to make sure I'm delivering the right content? Obviously, I mean, Lucas said a really key word too, creators. I think those are kind of the best partners in this too, because obviously I come from a comms background, and I think probably both of you guys agree, whether it's comms or not, you never have enough budget to do everything you want to do. So in that respect, then you have to pick what's going to be the most successful and yield the best results, which is always fun.
Yeah.
So you started to touch on it before, Letizia, but this new concept, right, of and this goes exactly along with what we're saying about connecting the right content with the right channel. And everyone's kind of interested in trying to figure out what's next, what's the best way to connect the customers. And I know a lot of our other beauty clients are really into figuring out how they could be doing more live shopping. So why do you think live shopping is becoming, a thing? And why do you think taking this approach has been successful? But not just from a sales perspective, maybe with that customer engagement perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I guess live shopping is not really a new concept, if you think about all the shopping channels, like the téléachat or even magazines, they all had that commercial opportunities. And I think it's just the switch is just to digital is just the next expression. It's where you want to meet your audience, where your audience is actually. And yeah, APAC region is the best place to see a more mature market in this space. If you look at the mega app WeChat, for example, where you can order taxis, read the news, talk to a salesperson, book a restaurant, all in the same app and not leaving the platform. I think China is a really good example, and we're definitely watching them in order to build our strategies for the old Europe, let's say.
And Luca, I know this is a topic you're quite passionate about as well. Who do you think are the brands that are doing it really well so far that we should kind of take a look at and consider?
Yeah, and I know that I'm not passionate. It's not really my passion. It's my job than my passion. My passion is football and guitar. No, I would love to retake a little bit what Letizia was saying. So China is paving the way on live streaming since 2016. So we actually have two-paced world right now, right? So we have the Douyens, the WeChat, the Reds, and the e-commerce platforms like Tmall that are super apps that include systematically social commerce features, right? So consumers are already part of this from 2016. So there is a seamless way to shop, one and only. The rest of the world there's a seismic shift, during the last months. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok are trying to fill the gap right there, but they tend to capitalize the opportunity on Generation Z, but Generation Z is a consumer that is not 100% there. So we have two duties in companies. We have one that is towards our partners. We should be able to help them on social commerce and accompany them, because the technology at the moment is clashing, is not going at the same speed as in China, also for privacy and laws, regulations, reasons. And then we have a duty towards our consumers. I'm sorry, I'm speaking about our consumers, but I put my CMI hat on
It's
me.
important.
We need to learn with them to shop in this new world, and making social commerce a funny thing to do and easy. We're not there yet in the Western of the world, but this said, we see a big rise in the usage of live streaming, and especially on fashion, we've seen a lot more examples rather than in other industries. In beauty, it's starting to. And the good thing is that in fashion, they are embracing the whole funnel from awareness to retention in live streaming. So as an example, we have Louis Vuitton, they broadcasted its Paris fashion show for the menswear 2022 collection on the Chinese platform Kuaishou. So this is for the wide eventing, for the big awareness. So there's a lot of fashion brands that are doing this for a big awareness and to broadcast and take the fashion shows to your house. Then there is live shopping, so the real core of conversion. As an example, there is a website, a US retailer that is called Moda Operandi. They launched a program called Moda Live. Every single day, specialists, fashion advisors, influencers, they are going live on the website, and they are doing things and trying things on them and making them shoppable, right? Through the buttons on the page. Then there is the experience that Gucci recreates. That is the personal shopper experience through the live streaming. So basically, they set up a faux luxury store, so not a fake store, but not a real store, but a background store in which they put a personal shopper that is going to present you specifically the news and the novelties of the year, right? And then there is another one that is super interesting and important. There is aim to create community and convert through content. Amazon Prime Video launched a series called Making the Cut last year. There is a fashion series with, I think, Tim Gunn and Heidi Klum presenting that. And they launched actually an after show on live streaming through Amazon Prime and towards Amazon Prime consumers. In this live streaming, the live streaming was presented by the presenter of the series and included several hosts. There were celebrities, there were influencers, and actually you could shop the looks that you saw in the series before directly through Amazon. And here we had one of our makeup brands involved in the premiere. There was CoverGirl for the US for the makeup part. And it was quite amazing to see how Jeff Bezos came to life in that, because Jeff Bezos once said, winning a Grammy Award with Amazon Prime help us sell more shoes, because Amazon Prime consumers sell the double of shoes to the normal consumer that doesn't have Amazon Prime Video. So this is the content that convert, actually.
It's so interesting you bring that up, because literally when we were deciding what sessions we should have, that topic kept coming back up. And it's such a brilliant example of how our industries are pivoting and how the consumer, that concept of, I used to work at Net-a-Porter, and I remember we used to say, like, why it's so important to have an app, right? It was like when people were first developing apps, and it was the whole, you need to be where your consumer is, but now your consumer is everywhere. And if you could think back to when you started your career to say, like, hey, there's going to be this, streaming service through a company that you can buy toilet paper through, and you're going to want to buy makeup and fashion goods through them, you'd be like, I don't think so. But nowadays, like, you want to buy everything. It's about convenience, right? So
yeah, it's about, I agree with you. And it's also about authenticity. I mean, we have a great case not on live streaming, but on social commerce inside Coty, there is a CoverGirl Foundation, right, in the US. So a beauty advisor, I'm going to tell you this because then, like I love to speak about real and authentic things. This beauty advisor from Canada, I think, posted on TikTok something like about one of our products. She was like, okay, the KVD foundation, Good Apple foundation, is out of stock everywhere. It costs you something like $80. This is the CoverGirl foundation that costs $10 and it's doing exactly the same. And she tried on it. Not paid by us, fully organic advocacy. That was amazing. We were able to individuate her in 24 hours and mobilitate, Letizia's team, the influence team, the sales team inside the country and be ready for the impact. The impact of that kind of single video that was boosted by us then, right, of course, was amazing. We speak about tens of thousands of incremental dollars sold in a couple of weeks, just because one creator was, without anything pushed by us, mentioning our products because it was more convenient and authentic. And that was amazing. And we replicated the case. Actually, we are trying to, replicate the case. When we have this, we don't really push this, every single time. But when we have the occasion, it's a good thing to do, to follow the authentic people that speak about your brand and love them back. Because if they love you, you have to love them back.
I mean, I think that's why in China, these KOCs, key opinion customers, are becoming so critical because people just want authenticity. You guys talked about a few markets. Actually, do you mind if I throw in an audience question? Because I'm curious. Obviously, you spoke about the differences between like rest of the world and China, but what about the US and Europe? Do you find that there's differences in how you're marketing or what the customer wants? Or
well, that's to be honest, on my brands, most of the brands I'm working for are very Europe centric. So I'm not really pushing, and we know that to enter the US with these brands, we need to tailor something different. And especially when working on luxury brands, we have the relationship with the fashion side as well, and we know that we have to work differently. But oh my god, I'm out of battery. So Luca, I'll leave you speak. I need to get my charger.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It depends on. It actually depends on. This is the good part of the live, right? Right, when you have this kind of problems or people entering your room. No, it depends on what we're speaking about. Actually, Europe and US are close markets, not maybe under a product perspective, but under a digital perspective, they're not that far. Of course, all the test and learn that we do in the US and the applications, the social networks that do in the US are earlier in the US rather than in the rest of the world. So as an example, US market for TikTok is testing out some live shopping events on the platform. And this is just available for US, UK in Europe, that is the other test market. So I see a similarity in between the two markets. And then Singapore in the rest of the world, right? So, and then China, of course, but China is another story. So I would tend to say that digitally, all the platforms and the social networks tend to bake before and tend to try to cook before in the US and then scale to the rest of the world, to Europe, of course.
Yeah, I remember when we first started talking about influencer marketing, and in France, it was like just starting to boom, but you couldn't give that same presentation in the US because people are like, influencer marketing has been around for years now. I think it's just the European market is a bit harder to crack, or that was the case, right? A bit harder to crack when it came to this kind of digitization and how you engage with your consumer through new mediums. Obviously, that's shifting with everyone getting online. And then one of the other questions that we had was, Are there certain products that are more used since the pandemic that you can share?
Well, in my experience, I mean, products, I don't know, but categories, definitely. So skincare is booming since the pandemic. I mean, even before they were booming, it was booming. It's booming even more. Hair care grew quite a lot. I'm not speaking about, salon de coiffure, but I'm speaking more about, products that you can use in house. So for ingrown hairs, etc. So when I was working in L'Oreal back there, I can remember one of those products for one brand that I'm not mentioning today because I work in Coty, but it was exploding literally during the pandemic. So of course fragrances had a little bit of loss, but now it's recovering really fast. So maybe Letizia, you could share a little bit more because you work specifically on that as well. But fragrance is recovering really, really fast. And we see a raise after the pandemic in the US, more driven by Generation Z. So the newer generation are really interested in fragrances. And then you have this Netflix, again, I'm speaking about content again. You have this Netflix big push, right? When you have a product booming on Netflix series or an Amazon Prime series, there you go. You have sales, you have big interest. And it's amazing how we are shaping our actually marketing efforts, even on that kind of stories. We tell authentic stories, and it comes back to authenticity. I'm sorry.
So it's interesting you mentioned the hair care because that's definitely something I personally encountered. I was pregnant during the first pandemic, so I became a hairstylist, like for myself and my husband. And I remember reading all of these like funny memes and articles, but like basically any type of men's clippers was sold out across the UK. So my husband would kill me for sharing this, but I love to embarrass him. So we ended up using the dog's clippers to clip his hair because it had gotten so bad at one point. But
yeah, you're right. And this is a good thing that you're saying, because it was not a category raising. It was products that helped us during pandemic that raised. So the skincare, because you feel like a wreck when you're in your house every single day without doing makeup. So you want to hydrate your skin, this kind of stuff for hairstyle, the ingrown hair coloration and color, nails, because you feel sad maybe, so you want to do nails. I don't know, like things and products that are helping you under a mental perspective for mental health, but also under a practical perspective. I think pandemic has really helped us to understand what is really practically helping us every day and what is not. But then, of course, we are going back to normal. I mean, without saying it too loud, but we are going back to normal, and we are retasting the things that we did before, right? So like going to the restaurants. In my case, the bars and restaurants.
well, I think Letizia said it too. Like it was all about this DIY mentality before. And so now maybe people will take that with them though, right? People are less scared to be more adventurous, to do stuff on their own, but then they're also so excited to go get a manicure, a pedicure, haircut, or a facial. So I think we'll probably see both. We only have a few minutes. I want to just jump into one last question. I know we didn't get to all the questions in the chat, but we will definitely come back to you guys via email. But I know everyone was messaging about this too, that people just want to know, like, what are your predictions for the future? Where do you see the industry going? What words of wisdom can you impart to these people that work in beauty and have come to hear your expertise, or hope to get into beauty and they just want, a really good line to say for their next interview?
Yeah, I mean, what we will certainly see in beauty, I mean, there's a lot of questions here, actually. What we will see in beauty, I think, we will definitely be more, I think brands will be definitely more accountable and for ethical, inclusivity, sustainability products. I think, and our transparency will and should be non-negotiable, and I can see that coming. I also can imagine like beauty and health being even closer than ever, like combining well-being and cosmetics, skincare with like science and technology. Like I can see how an increased drive for tech will happen in all areas, like product innovation, like new biotechnology in ingredients, like a faster way to deliver or faster way to sell products. And I also think that I can also imagine like how customers and beauty communities will be more and more involved. And I think that's like answering all the conversation we had about advocacy, but like customer and beauty communities will be more and more involved with how the brand are shaping their products, how like the direction of the brand, and they will maybe even be part of like the product development, you know.
And Luca, did you want to add any? Oh, he didn't like your thoughts for the future.
He disagree with me.
Well, do you mind then if I ask you one more audience question, since now we have 2 minutes left? I don't know actually what your response is going to be on this, but this was the first question we got, so I definitely want to get to it. But they're asking, what are our thoughts on beauty boxes, and is this something you feel brands should be budgeting for? Oh, I think I've lost everyone, guys. Okay, Luca, you're on silent, but do you want to give your 1 minute thought for the future, and then we'll say au revoir?
I don't know why. Yeah. That's good. We're here. 1 minute.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So I think for the future, I think that Letizia touched everything. To me, again,
Oh God.
You know, it's because you guys are sitting in like simultaneous offices. You're competing with each other for bandwidth.
I'm leaving.
Okay. No. So actually, I was saying that the authenticity of people and the micro influencers and what we have there is a great power that we could leverage, and we need to leverage. So we need to actually bring their voices to the table, because they're the most valuable advocate we can have, actually. So the key opinion consumers, the micro influencers, the people that are in line with our values. This is the future, and this is going to be the future in China too. This is the first time that we see, on a digital perspective, that China is going to follow Europe after, right? Because it's the influence model that is shifting. So from the KOL, they're going towards the micro-influencers and the KOCs. And this is a good stuff. I'm not telling you that we don't have to use KOLs in the future. We need to use them for awareness purposes, most of all. And we need to use experts, even inside the house, and KOCs and micro-influencers for the authenticity part. That's my guess for the near future, and it's already like this.
Great. Well, I know the audience has really enjoyed today's session, and everyone, I'm really sorry we didn't get to all your questions, but we will come back to you, and I will get you an answer on the beauty box from the Coty team. I see you've messaged a few times about it. If you guys are still interested in this social shopping conversation, I am now launching a little chat with the head of creator expansion at Like to Know It, and Karen was on big time influencer and entrepreneur. So I'll see you guys in the next session. And Coty team, thank you guys so much for your time and joining and all of your insight. And hopefully we can have drinks next time I make it to Paris.
With pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.